All right, if you've ever gone grocery shopping before or shopped at Target or Walmart, you have no doubt had one of those experiences where you've had that kind of shopping cart. And you know what I'm talking about, right? You want to go straight and it wants to go this way or it wants to go that way. And after 30 minutes of pushing that thing around, you feel like you've had a full body workout, right? How many of you have had, all right, almost everybody. You've probably driven a car like that once in a while as well, where your car sort of veers to the right or to the left, and rather than this nice, smooth ride, you're constantly battling the steering wheel. Well, the problem, of course, with the cart and with the car is that the wheels are out of alignment. The wheels are out of sync on that cart, and every time you push it, it wants to go the direction you don't want to go, and it's a battle pushing that cart around. Or the wheels on the car are out of alignment. And so it veers in directions you don't want to go. And rather than enjoying this nice, pleasant ride, it becomes a battle, a fight with that steering wheel. The point is that when something is out of alignment, it forces us to go places we don't want to go, and it makes even the most enjoyable and the simplest of tasks difficult and frustrating. And the same is true with our lives. When our lives are out of alignment, everything is a little bit off or a lot of bit off. And even the things that ought to be simple in life become difficult. And so what I want to do today for just a few moments as we get ready for 2014 is focus on how to bring alignment into our lives, to live the life we were created to live. And I want to begin by focusing on some signs that can help you discover whether or not your life is in alignment. A car being out of alignment can be dangerous. Imagine what happens when our lives are out of alignment. And so let me quickly, using that, give you 5 symptoms of misalignment in your life. 5 ways to tell if your life is out of alignment. First of all, there'll be pulling in your life. And by that I mean you'll find yourself constantly going in directions you don't want to go in your life. You'll do the things you don't want to do. You won't do the things that you want to do. The Apostle Paul says it this way in Romans 7, I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. So essentially what happens when you have pulling in life, when you're out of alignment, is life just becomes a lot of work, and you never really get into the groove. Secondly, wacky living. All right? This is where you're kind of all over the place. You have a hard time staying on track, and because of it, you become stressed. You can become overwhelmed in life, burned out, anxious, depressed, and this is a sign that your life is out of whack. A third sign that your life is out of alignment is wheel wear or life wear. And this is where life becomes uneven for you. You feel sort of out of sync mentally or emotionally or relationally. Things just aren't hitting on all cylinders. And that shows itself in the fourth sign, which is a sluggish life. This is really the best indicator that your life is out of alignment. If you're constantly tired, if you're overwhelmed, if life is sluggish, if it's tough getting up in the morning, something is out of alignment in your life. It might be your physical health, it might be your emotional health, it might be your relational health, your financial health. Something is out of alignment when life is sluggish for you. And that's God's cue that He's got something better for you. And then finally, we have a whole lot of shaking going on in our life, which means that everything is just bumpy. Now, that's not to say that life is always smooth. It certainly isn't. But even the everydayness of life is always seeming like you're hitting potholes. And even when you feel like it's finally going straight, you're always aware that at any moment you could drive into another pothole. There's just this nervousness that something bad is right around the corner. Those are signs that your life is out of alignment. And when one area of life is out of alignment, it affects every other area of life. When our lives aren't aligned, we hurt mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Life loses its passion. It loses its energy. Now, there are a lot of reasons why our lives end up misaligned. But Jesus boils it all down to one thing. He says the reason why our lives are out of alignment is because our lives aren't completely lined up with Him and His call in our lives. According to the first few chapters in Genesis, we were created to follow. We were created to live under the management of our benevolent, caring, gracious Heavenly Father. And when we're living under God management, that's when life is aligned. But as Adam and Eve discovered, when they took themselves out of God management and tried to manage life themselves, they discovered the pain and the heartache of misalignment. And for them, it showed itself in nakedness, in vulnerability, in shame. And they were so overwhelmed and their lives were so out of control and out of whack that they hid in sticky bushes wearing prickly, itchy fig leaves to cover it all up. Their lives were out of alignment. And Jesus tells us that that's been our story ever since Adam and Eve. We've been created to follow. We've been created to live our lives under the management of God, but we're constantly wandering away from that. And when we take ourselves out of the management of God and begin to self-manage, we end up in the pigsty like the prodigal son, flailing away in the mud, getting nowhere. You see, when one area of our life is not surrendered to the lordship of Jesus, every other area of life feels the drag. And so Jesus comes to us, and he offers two profound words that can help us realign our lives. Consider these two words a chiropractic adjustment that realigns your back when it's out of alignment. And the two words are these: follow me. And throughout his ministry, Jesus gave us some insights into what that means and what it looks like. And let me look at just a few examples for you from the life and ministry of Jesus. In Matthew 11, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you that are weary and carrying heavy burdens. Come to me, all of you whose lives are out of alignment, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So the reference here that Jesus is making is to the yoke that was put, or the harness that's put on oxen, so that they will follow the leader as the ground is being plowed, and they will go in a straight line down the path of least resistance rather than veering off to the left or to the right. And Jesus is saying that when we take his yoke onto our shoulders, when we follow him, when we learn from him, he will lead us in his way of grace and compassion and alignment, and that's where we find our groove in life, when we follow Jesus. In John chapter 10, Jesus says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy." The thief comes, Satan comes to knock us out of alignment. That's his primary purpose in life. Not to knock your whole life out of alignment, but just one area, because he knows if he can get that one area out of alignment, the rest will feel the drag. But I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. The word abundantly means overflowing. Again, it doesn't mean that there aren't problems. It doesn't mean that there isn't pain, but there's a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning in life that supersedes all of that. Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all of his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice." And so Jesus says that alignment in life comes, fulfillment in life comes, when we hear his voice and follow him where he's leading us. And we hear his voice in a variety of ways. We hear his voice by reading the Bible, by praying, by worshiping, by listening to the sermon, through communion, through the advice of others. Jesus is constantly speaking to us, calling us to follow him in every area of life. Jesus says in Luke 9, if any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it. So again, what Jesus is saying here goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. When we try to save ourselves through self-management, that's when we lose ourselves. We get out of alignment. But when we submit our lives, surrender our lives to the lordship of Jesus and follow him, that's when we find life. That's when we're in alignment. And finally, then the father said to the slaves, "Quickly bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. And put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let's eat and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So when we live outside of the Father's grace, we live in that pigsty, and we're flailing away in the mud, and life is constantly a tough slog. We're always out of alignment. But in the Father's house of grace, we feast on life and the abundance, and that's when life is in alignment. So for the 3 or 4 of you who read my e-graces when I send them out, you'll know that I've been reading a book. There was an uncomfortable laughter. You'll be reading. I'm reading a book called Following Christ, Experiencing Life the Way It Was Meant to Be. It was written in the 90s by a professor at Moody Bible Institute. And he's fleshing out what it means, what it really means for us to follow Jesus. And he's got some great quotes, and I want to read just a few of them for you to help us get our brains around what it means to really follow Jesus in every area of life. He says, when we follow Jesus, nothing is safe. I love that. When we follow Jesus, nothing is safe from his reforming touch. He is committed to reforming our conduct and our character. Little else matters to him. Our story, the story of Adam and Eve, is that sin has misaligned our lives. The story of Jesus is that by grace, he puts us back into alignment. And that's his passion, to put your life back into alignment. No aspect of our lives is exempt from Christ's new and correct way. He leaves nothing untouched. Relationships, time, money, self, children, talents, focus of life, and anything else that gets caught up in the traffic of life are radically rerouted when we follow him. By the way, that's a word of grace, not a word of law. Christ rescues us from a life headed the wrong way. In other words, he realigns our life with grace. He removes the drag in life we often experience so that we can live in the groove of grace that we were created to live in. So, in 2014, our theme for the year is going to be following Jesus, aligning life with the cross. And throughout this year, in a variety of ways, we're going to talk about how to align every single area of our life with the call to follow Jesus. What it looks like to align our family life with the call to follow Jesus, our marriage, our finances, our physical health, our attitudes, our mental well-being. We're going to look at every area of life as we go through the Bible and what it looks like for us to align our lives with the lordship of Jesus and live in the groove of grace that he created us for. Tomorrow, you're going to receive an e-grace from me, an email from me, and I'm going to have a few questions for you to think through and pray through as you get ready for 2014 that have to do with your faith and areas of life that may be out of alignment. What I want to do today as we close is leave you with 2 questions and 2 gifts. And so the questions are these, and I'll tease them out more for you tomorrow in the email. What kind of follower of Jesus do you want to be in 2014? What kind of follower of Jesus do you aspire to be in 2014? What impact do you want Jesus to make on your life this year? And secondly, what are the habits or disciplines or practices that you're going to develop in your life to help you become that kind of follower? Now, we all understand that following Jesus is all about grace. We're empowered by God's grace to do it. But we can ignore that grace and just kind of do things on our own as Adam and Eve did, or we can live in the flow of grace, and that means living in a certain direction, changing habits, changing practices. So what are the things that you are going to do in your life that will help you become the follower of Jesus that you want to be? So those are the 2 questions I want you to ruminate on today and then tomorrow as I tease those out more for you in your email. And then starting next weekend, we are going to be doing a lot of different things to align our lives with the call to follow Jesus, to align our lives with the cross. And in worship, the main thing we're going to do is go through the story of God together and talk about how to align our story of life with the story of faith and the story of God.